not saying we shouldn't do shekels, because they do come in handy, but they are looking for that US dollar and they want it. So I'm going to really have a conversation about whether we should exchange the money or not.
So whoever needs to be online, they can call me.
Okay.
Get online.
We're good online, Ms. Filson. Is it the Zoom,
No, we are on
Facebook, YouTube?
Facebook and YouTube.
Facebook and YouTube. So anybody you guys
Yes,
know
both.
who wanted to watch it online, we're on Facebook and YouTube. Do I need to use the mic, LaSonia?
Yeah.
Because of Facebook
Why
and
not?
YouTube?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
I have a question.
No, we got good sound.
Okay, good. Hold on one second. Ms. George had one, and then I'll get you.
So the $212 is due now, or kind of leading up to the trip, or?
Nope, so we'll flip to the next slide, and I think that'll tell you. Okay. The $102 is due with your final payment, which is due January 5th.
Okay.
The $110 for the trip is due the Sunday before we leave. That money, if you're gonna pay a check, is made payable to Unity Baptist Church, because that's our personal tip. Tony doesn't have anything to do with that. We're collecting it in advance. We'll have it all in an envelope, and then I just pass it out. I have all of these separate envelopes based upon the hotel that we stay in, envelope for the driver, envelope for Tall, but we collect it all in advance so I can have it. If you want to do cash, that's even better. I'm gonna be honest, if you do cash, that's better. Because all we're gonna have to do is cash the check, take the money out, because I take that cash over. I carry it over. I lock it up, but I carry it over. So January 5th, yes, I'm sorry. My daughter reminded me he had a question.
That's okay. Can I pay stuff over there with a debit card, or I need to pay cash?
I wouldn't pay with a debit
Or
card.
a credit card?
You can pay with a credit card. I actually encourage that. It's a great country, but you want to pay with a credit card that has no international additional taxes or fees. You need to check that before you go. Because if you pay with a credit card that has international fees, you're basically paying for it 3 times. That fee is astronomical. But yes, feel free to bring a credit card. There's nothing wrong with that. I use them while I'm there. I've never had an issue.
No international what? I'm gonna write
No
that down.
international fee.
Okay.
So your credit cards can have an international fee associated with them. So over there, there's the conversion rate. I talked to you guys about this. So I should tell you this. Let me just back up. So this is one of many informational meetings we will have. As we get closer to leaving, the meetings are going to be more and more specific about what you need to pack, what you need to bring, what's the weather going to be like. Because as we get closer, I just have more information. But there is a conversion app that you need to put on your phone, because they're going to give you an amount, and you need to know what's that converted amount. So they're going to tell you it's $110. But what is that in shekels? It's something much larger, because we do have a free day of shopping, and there is a fair amount of shopping to do in Jerusalem. I mean, a fair amount of shopping. And it's all open air market shopping. So it's all negotiable. So you can, if you're a great negotiator and haggler of prices, have at it. That is not I'm a lawyer, but that's not my expertise, unfortunately. When it comes to, I just want to go in and buy. I don't like to shop. So I go in, I want to get it, and I want to get out. I don't want to argue with you about the price. This is how much I want to pay. You say no, I'm leaving. That's just me, though. So everybody has to do what they're comfortable with, but you should know, if you're negotiating, what's the reasonable price and what you're willing to pay and what that equates to in US dollars. Right? So my friend Kim went with us the first time. She got some beautiful jewelry. I mean, beautiful jewelry. And she negotiated well. So it's just about your personal interests. And you've already talked about the suitcases that Michelle brought back. So if you want to talk about somebody negotiating, I'm certain that she negotiated well. Literally, she had to buy a new bag. So just be mindful of that as we get closer. I'll give you that conversion app. But you can go out there and get it, or we can look on my phone for it before you leave. I keep it. I always have that conversion app. So, all right. So the important thing I do want to note is, I think I mentioned this before, but I want to reiterate it, especially for the people online. There was an issue during the pandemic that TriStar Tours had with credit cards. They just had a lot of problems, so they stopped taking them. Previously, in our past trips, they took credit cards. They are no longer accepting credit cards. So it is check or money order. If you give me cash, I then have to go get a money order and put your name on it. So I would ask, please ma'am, please sir, give me a cashier's check or a money order with your name on it and your information so that the payment is properly credited to you. And then I'm responsible for keeping the cash, not losing the cash, can't replace the cash, check I can trace, money order I can trace, all of it. So please, no cash, and no Cash App, no Zelle, none of that.
And this is for what, $110?
This is for everything, all your payments. This is for your payments to Israel.
Oh, okay.
So this is your payments, because Tony does not accept. Everybody still has, well, not everybody. The majority of us still have outstanding balances. So in making your payment on these outstanding balances, you have to give me the payment. I have to then forward it to Tony. I do it through Overnight Express, either through UPS or the post office, so I can track it. I have a tracker, all of this, send him the receipt. I do all of that, and I don't mind doing that. But it's difficult for me if you give me cash, because I still have to then go get the money order and everything else. So I would prefer that you give me a cashier's check or a money order. Yes, Mr. Griswold?
So you're not taking personal checks anymore?
Yes, I take personal checks. Check, money order, cashier's check. I'm sorry. Yes, personal check, cashier's check, money order, just not the actual green money. Any questions about payments? All right. Travel insurance. Most of us have secured travel insurance either through Tony or independently on our own. For those online, the travel insurance is important because it protects us against COVID as well. I don't want anyone in this room to catch COVID. I don't want anyone to be sick, but this is a fair investment for your spiritual fulfillment, and you want to protect that investment. So the way to do that is to have travel insurance. Your travel insurance must be purchased within 14 days of your deposit. So for anyone who's coming in new, because we're going to have some additional people I anticipate, so if you're coming in new, when you send me your deposit, you have 14 days to secure that travel insurance, which is $265 for, there's a typo in here, it says $4,500 worth of coverage. It's actually $4,000 worth of coverage. Sorry about that, that's me. Correct your paper and make that 5 a 0. So if you know you're gonna go, we are strongly encouraging people to get the insurance. So if you're gonna bring me a deposit of $500, I would ask that you also bring a separate check for the $265 at the same time. That way, there's no gap. I'm not tracking you down, and we don't have the issue that your trip is not protected. Okay? And what does this cover? Pre-existing conditions. So I pre-existing condition, my daughter has a pre-existing condition, we both have asthma. So what does that mean? If I have an asthma attack that is so severe, I end up in the hospital the day we were supposed to go, my trip is protected because my pre-existing condition was well known and documented, and it resulted in me not being able to travel. COVID. You test positive for COVID before you leave, your trip is protected, you get your money back. You test positive for COVID while you're there, everything affiliated with COVID is covered. You get the refund back for whatever you didn't go, and the insurance pays for if you got a quarantine. God forbid you end up having to have some medical treatment, that's all covered by your insurance. That's why it's really important to protect your trip. Okay, any questions about the travel insurance? Yes?
Yes, in other words, in the event if something were to happen, and you couldn't come back with anybody else,
Yeah.
all that would be covered.
All of that would be covered. So in the event, and that's a great question, In the event something were to happen, such that you get COVID, you have to quarantine, and your quarantine lasts beyond the time that the group comes back on March 9th. All of that is covered. Your hotel stay is covered, your food is covered, whatever flight you need to come back is covered. If somebody needs to stay with you, that person is covered. So that's all covered by your travel's insurance. For $265, you must do it. I can't insist that you do it, but I can strongly encourage that you need to protect your trip. All right, vaccination. This is something we didn't talk about before. So the rules are constantly changing about who needs to be vaccinated and who doesn't. We go with the CDC. CDC is recommending if you travel internationally that you must be vaccinated. We are going with the CDC. You are going on this trip, you must be vaccinated, including boosters. Period.
All the boosters?
All boosters. If you're eligible for the booster, you need to get the booster. So if you're not eligible for the booster, then you don't need to get the booster. But if you're eligible and it's recommended by the CDC that you get the booster, then you get vaccinated and you get boosted. Okay? I'll need your vaccination card in October, and then I'm going to check it again the week before we leave, because I would imagine there would have been another booster. So, okay? And if there's any questions, any issues, anything about it, we can talk about it. This is, this is the CDC recommendation, and that's why we're going with it, right? Yes, ma'am.
Virginia,
Yes.
if you had all of your shots, everything,
Mhm.
and you check it once, why do you have to check it again?
Only if there's been an additional booster.
Oh,
So, because I'm going to check it in October.
okay,
So from October to February, the CDC may have come out with something different.
okay.
If they haven't, then there's no need for me to check it.
Are you required to have both boosters?
Whatever the CDC recommends. And if the CDC recommends both boosters, then we're going to require people to have both boosters. We're just going by the CDC recommendation of what's deemed fully vaccinated.
For passport, is that intentional or unintentional?
Did I skip it? That was unintentional. I'll go right back to it. Thank you so much.
Are there any other vaccinations I need to have? Because this is Israel.
No. So Israel is not, so a lot of people think about Israel, because I know when you go to Africa, some parts of Africa, you do have to have a series of shots, right, before you go into the country. Not to Israel. Like I said, this will be my third trip, and I've never had a shot. It's fine. It's just like being here. So you don't need any additional precautions that you wouldn't use if you were going to, say, London or Paris. It's no different. Okay, any questions on vaccination? And I did skip, my page is stuck, and I skipped passport. Thank you so much, Linda. Let's go back to passport. So everybody has to have a valid passport. You can't leave the country without it. And the important thing is that your passport doesn't expire until 6 months after we leave. That's why it says August of 2023. So you, just in case something happens, you need to be able to have a valid passport to get back into the country if for some reason as a group we end up over there beyond March 9th. Don't anticipate it will happen by any stretch of the imagination, but it's better to be prepared than not, right? You don't want to be over there and your passport expires in April. Okay? I'll need a copy of your passport by October 2nd, that's a Sunday. And I should say that I try to be at church most Sundays. It's been very hit or miss lately, I'll be honest. I'm working a lot of hours. But I try to be here most Sundays. If I'm here, you can always bring me a payment. You can hand me your passport. You can give me any documentation that you want to when I'm here. I don't mind. But I do need it by October 2nd so I can have it and make sure they're all good. And Tony makes sure that they're good.
Just want to know, can she email you these copies?
Yes, you can email me anything that you want to email. Let me just tell you about email and text. So I would, if you can send it secure because it's your passport, I would prefer that you do that. If you can't, the second you send it to me, I will confirm receipt of it, I will print it out, and I will delete it. And I would strongly encourage that anybody that sends it electronically, you do the same. So there are several people in this room who have been to Israel before. I destroyed your passports. There's no need for me to keep that. That is a form of identification for you. And if somebody were to break in my house, God forbid, it's never happened, and I got your passport laying around, so I've shredded them. And so you should delete it. I'm not saying don't send it electronically, but then delete it. 2 copies of your passport you take with you. I will have a copy in a binder that I keep. I have a binder of everything. Your roommates, it's just my binder. It's my little Israel binder Bible that I keep. And it has everything in it that's important for everybody, and I keep it with me at all times. You should keep a copy of your passport on your person somewhere when we're in Israel. Fold it up in your pocket, in your purse, somewhere where you can easily have access to it, but it ain't gonna get lost. Another copy, locked in the safe. All the hotels come with safes. Locked in the safe. Okay. Why we need so many copies of the passport? Because the original is also going to be locked in the safe, because you got to have your original, right? Reason we do this, and it actually happened, it almost gave me a heart attack, is I said all of this, and a person didn't bring any copies, and they only had their original. And then they thought they lost it. And I was scrambling, right? I was scrambling. Tony was scrambling. How are we gonna get this person back in the country? They don't even have a copy, but I had a copy, which was great, right? So I did have a copy. They didn't have any copies. I had a copy of their passport, right? So I was able to upload it. You have a copy, but it still requires some scrambling when you lose your original, which is why I encourage you. Don't take your original out of the hotel room unless you absolutely have to. Because you could lose it. How would you lose your passport?
What if you had ID passport?
ID passport?
I have
Oh.
driving license. I have an ID.
So you talk about the real ID?
Uh,
Okay.
Driving license.
Yep.
Plus the passport is on the back.
Yes.
I got a real.
So the real ID, I don't have one yet, right? So I'm not that familiar with it. The real ID is something that's going to be required for you to fly domestically. I think it was Shelley that asked me that question. She did ask me because I do believe it's going to go into effect in May of 2023. So it's actually after we travel. But at one point, it was supposed to be before we travel. So we're traveling domestically too, like from here to New York. And the question was, do you need the real ID? My answer was no, because as long as we're traveling on that passport, you're good. And so if you have the real ID, if your passport is on the back of your real ID, are you asking me if you still need your original passport? The answer is going to be yes. You always have to fly on your original passport.
I went on a cruise, and I had my real passport, but I had my driving license passport. So they didn't accept that and went on. They didn't never look at the.
They didn't look at the real passport?
It's fine for groups in certain places, like one where we're going.
Yeah, I agree. Because we are traveling internationally and going to Israel in the Middle East, you're going to need your real passport. And I would encourage you to make sure you have it. So don't forget to pack that.
Yeah, well, there is when you go get your passport, they ask you if you want the passport or the card or both.
Both, yeah.
And so, I thought that's what she was talking about. She was talking about the license, enhanced
Yes.
license.
Yeah, the
But
real
if you
ID
issue a
license.
card, they will issue a card with your passport if you want that.
Yes.
Is that sufficient?
No. You have to bring that original passport. So you get the original passport, and then I know exactly what you're talking about. They give you this card, which like you can keep in your wallet, which is like basically a copy of your passport. But I encourage you to have your, and I should have brought my copy, your government issued real passport with, you need your, it's called a passbook. It's called a passbook because it looks like a book, right? Traditionally, if you travel out of the country, they stamp those pages. Israel, you will not get a stamp. I know! They don't stamp the book. They don't stamp it. It's for those of us
We love our stamps.
Live by our stamps in our book.
Even when you request it.
Yeah, even when you request, there is
They
no
give you this
stamp.
little face like,
There is no stamp. They will not stamp your book. And you will get a little card when you go into this country that no one will tell you you need that card to get out.
Yes.
It's a very small card, and they're just like, stick that in your passport. You're like, okay, whatever. It happened with Caitlin and her friend. So they just had it. And thank goodness they scrounged around and found it when it was time to leave. So I'm going to tell you now, you're going to get this little card. It's very small. Stick it in your passport book and leave it there. Lock it up with your passport because you'll need it when you leave.
Visa,
Yeah, Visa. Thank you, dear.
so you can't get back to the airport without.
Yes, you'll need it just to even get in the airport. They will ask you, where's your little Visa card? What are you talking about? But it's in your passport. Just pull it out and you'll have it. Okay? COVID protocol has significantly relaxed both here and in Israel. A negative COVID test is no longer required before we depart. When we first had the meeting, it was the requirement that we were all going to have to test in New York before we got on the plane, but we don't have to anymore. There is no longer, then we were going to have to test again when we landed at Ben Gurion in Tel Aviv. They were going to test us again, but that's not going to happen now either. So we're good to go as of now. Everything related to COVID is subject to change, depending upon the numbers, depending upon whatever happens. So all I can tell you at each meeting, I'm going to update you on the COVID protocol, and it will be with the caveat as of now. And that's all I can do. Right now, there is no requirement to have a negative COVID test to come back into the country, but know that this is all subject to change. All of the hotels have COVID testing. If for some reason you wanted to test on your own, there is a fee. I'm not certain how much it is at each hotel, but that's up to you. It is not required, and we are not requiring it. If you test before you come back into the country, that's because that's something you choose to do. Okay? Any questions about that?
Say that again,
If you choose to test before you come back in the country, that's up to you. They have testing at the hotel. If you want to test before you come back, say you think you might have someone at home that you're concerned about, you can test if you want to. It is not a requirement by the U.S. government, and it's not something we are going to require as the coordinators of the trip. So we're not asking anyone to test to come back into the country. Okay? But if you want to do it on your own, I'm just letting people know that the hotels have that option.
You gotta wait till you get to New York,
Yeah.
because you don't wanna be stuck.
Yes. And I don't want to say that, but yes, that's exactly true, right? You test and you test positive, and now you could be stuck. Flight to New York. Whew. It is still a work in progress. So previously, our last trip, they didn't have group rates. So what I would do is I would look for a ticket. It would be a great price, be in the back of the church, and I'm just buying 9 at a time. That's what we did. 9. Oh, okay, let's go. 9. Give me your credit card. Give me your credit card. Give me your credit card. And that's what we did. And so it was about 40 something. And we traveled that way, and it worked. Delta now has the group travel. The price is astronomical. It is almost 3 times what it is online. I think our best bet would probably be do what we did before. But I am working with a travel agent through Tony to see if the travel agent has any better luck. You know, they get that special travel agent code that I don't have. And it's because the gas prices and the pilot shortage. So Delta and every other airline in the middle of the pandemic said, no one's flying, we're paying all these people, who's eligible for retirement, raise your hand. And then they let like a lot of people retire. And now that the flying is back, they have shortages. So, as I said, I'm working on it. I strongly encourage everybody to check the flight. If you see a flight that you deem is reasonable for you, book it. Don't wait for me. We all travel. It's from here to New York. If you see something that you think is reasonable for you, go ahead and book that flight. You should do it. And Hopper, I don't know if anybody in here is familiar with Hopper. Hopper lets you watch a flight. I am watching this flight on Hopper. Hopper is amazing. It actually works. So the flight, I checked it this morning. I think it was $290, $280. And Hopper said, watch this flight. It'll be $180 cheaper. So I just watch it. And when the price drops, they'll alert me. And I buy it. The second they alert me, I buy it. If they say, buy this flight, green, you're good to go, or they'll say, there's a price drop, but wait, because it's still likely to go lower. And they have not failed me yet. I mean, they really haven't. So I'm watching the flight. Tony's working on the flight. And so it's just a work in progress. That's all I can say about the flight. I anticipate that it's going to go down because we're in the height of summer. And people are traveling. The gas prices are insane. They have the shortages. We have enough time that we can wait. I am a fan of buying early. I like to buy months in advance because usually the earlier you buy, the cheaper it is. I think this may be the opposite situation, that if we wait a little bit, the prices will come down. Okay? But that said, if you see something that you think is great, you should go for it. Don't wait. Don't wait.
What time are we supposed to be in New York?
Yep, that's next.
Question.
Yes.
I haven't flown to the east for a while, so what do you call a good rate?
So I have traveled to New York for a really good rate, which is like $140. You're not gonna get that rate. But I think anything between 200 and 230, I think is a good rate. I do. I think that's a great rate. Maybe even up to 3. Now, that's a good rate. Anything above that, I don't think it's a good rate.
Is that round trip?
That's round trip. That's a round trip rate. That's a round trip rate. I think we paid $210, maybe. I think we paid $210 in 2020, around there. It was between $198 to $210. Some folks waited, and for the flight that people paid $198 for, it cost them $400 because they waited too late. So we're just gonna watch this flight and you will know. So the question is what time? So skip the hotel in New York, we're gonna come back to that, and you're gonna get arrival in New York. So our flight leaves at 5 p.m. on February 27th. It is an international flight, so we have to be there 3 hours earlier. So what time do we need to be at the gate for LL to check in? 2 o'clock. So that means if you're flying in on Monday, the 27th, you need to be in New York no later than 12 or 12:30. Why? You gotta go get your bag. Remember this. This is not a connecting flight. So you land, you get off the plane from Detroit to New York, you get off the plane, you gotta go downstairs to baggage claim, you gotta get your bag. And then you gotta turn around and go back upstairs. But guess what? You cannot get in the terminal. Why? You do not have a boarding pass. I don't have a boarding pass. We are traveling as a group. There is one group ticket that Tony will give us at 2 o'clock when we get there. So you don't have a boarding pass that's gonna get you back into the airport. So it's very important that you think accordingly, right? So people are like, well, what am I gonna do? How's this gonna work? So there's a couple options. You can go down the night before, flip back to the hotel. You can go down the night before. I'm a strong proponent of that. I've done that. I've gone down the night before. With the cancellations that are happening now, My daughter and I just traveled, our flight was canceled. My friend just came back from Cancun, her flight was canceled. With the cancellations that are happening now, and you should understand, a cancellation does not necessarily, even with the travel insurance, protect you. Right? Because that's nothing anybody has any control over. Delta will refund your New York money, but what about your Israel money? Now, we will get you on the next flight out on LL. Don't worry about it, but you're going to be behind the group. Somebody's going to have to pick you up from the airport, and you're going to have to catch up to the group. Okay? So I do worry about flight cancellations because it's just an unprecedented time. And they are happening. I mean, every time you turn on the news, right? 3,000 flights canceled. 200 flights canceled. Just all of these cancellations. To avoid that, if you fly out early in the morning on Sunday, well, after church, let me step on Pastor Warfield. You fly out Sunday afternoon. The only reason I say early is because the airlines have told you the best flight to get out on is the morning flight. After that, you just see it, right? It's like some kind of domino effect. And the problem is, if this morning flight goes out, you're great. The next flight is canceled, guess what? Those people now are scrambling to try to get on the flight that you're trying to get on or that you may already be on. You know what I'm saying? It's like a domino effect. But I will not say skip church, even though we all can watch it online. Sunday morning. I'm not encouraging anyone to skip church. But you can fly out Sunday. Get there, get your bag, stay at a hotel that's in the area. I have attached some hotels that are in the area. They all have airport shuttle service. Just pick up a courtesy phone, or you just walk outside and they'll tell you where the shuttle is for that particular hotel. Depending upon the interest, if folks are interested in that, if enough are interested in it, I will check to see about a group rate. If not, people can do what's most comfortable for them. Now, we have gone down early. We go to Times Square. You can take in a play. You can make a trip of it. It's completely what you want to do. Several of us, the last trip, went down, like I said, we stayed in Times Square, the Marriott Marquis. Some people went to see Tina. Some people went to see Hamilton. And we made a whole evening of it. It was, a fair amount of us. But it's all about what you want to do. Because this is your trip. I can't tell people what to do. I can't tell people how to spend their money. Because that's all extra. That's not included in this trip. That's extra, right? Inflation. Times were a little different in 2020 than they are now, right? So, and you got COVID too. Who knows what New York will be doing. We may not even feel comfortable going to a theater. I just don't know. I'm just giving you these options. But staying at a hotel with a shuttle that is close to the airport, it does two things for you. It makes sure you are there on the 26th with no issues. It also gives you a place to hang out until it's time to go to the airport on the 27th. Right? Checkout is at noon. Get a late checkout for 1 o'clock. Get your bag together. Get yourself on the shuttle. Get back to JFK. So it kind of takes care of all of that. Because if you arrive Monday morning at JFK on a flight at 9, guess what? You got to go down and get your bag. So now what do you do from 9 to 3 o'clock? There's one restaurant in the baggage claim area. Your other options, if you really, and some of you may not be able to fly down early. You want to fly down on Monday. You can lock your luggage up. You can store it for about $15, $20. Store your luggage at JFK, and then do what you want to do. You can take a taxi, there are a ton of local restaurants within 10 or 15 minutes of JFK. You can go hang out at a restaurant. I just wouldn't encourage you to just hang out at the airport from, if you get there at 9 o'clock until 3 o'clock. You're going to be bored out of your mind. Yes, ma'am?
I just want to make sure I'm going to restate it. So the plane actually leaves on the 27th at 5 o'clock. We need to be at the airport at 2 or
Yes.
12?
2 o'clock.
Okay. So we need to
Now, you need to check into the gate at 2 p.m. You need to arrive by 12, right? And thank you for that distinction. So, arrival at the airport, arrival at the gate is two entirely different things. So, depending upon what you do, will determine what time you need to be back at JFK. If you fly in on Monday, you will be back at the gate by 1:50 p.m. But you need to arrive in New York no later than noon, because you got to deplane, get your bag from baggage claim, and then get back up to the international gate at LL by 1:50. That's a lot. That's a lot, and you need to build in some time. So don't get a flight that has you landing at 1:30. You're gonna be late. And they want us there, every single one of us, as a group at 2 p.m. If one is missing, we're all missing in their mind. So it's important. You should understand, if you know nothing else, when you are in Israel, we move as one. Embrace that. We move as one. I don't care if we're 50, I don't care if we're 30. We move as one. So keep that in mind for your fellow traveler. You want to hang back and do something, or you want to do something else, it normally wouldn't affect other people, but because we move at one, what one person does has a ripple effect for everybody. So, coming in on Monday, need to be in New York by noon. Period. Your flight needs to land by noon to get to the gate by 2. If you're staying overnight, you need to be on your shuttle and at the gate by 2. Does that make sense? I don't want to confuse anybody. That makes sense. And what you choose to do is completely up to you guys. As I said, if there's interest in staying overnight, let me know. Anybody interested in staying overnight? Is it worth me looking for a group rate? Okay, I will look for one. All right, I'm gonna keep moving. All right, so Tel Aviv, we leave, as I've said, at 5 o'clock, February 27th. Check in at 2, we board at 4. We'll arrive, we come back home. We leave at 12:45 a.m. returning on March 9th. We arrive back in New York at 5:45. That time is important. Why is the arrival back in New York time important?
Book our flights to go home.
There you go. Flight to go home. And what do you have to do?
Go to customs.
Customs and pick up your bag. Right? Delta has a flight at 7 a.m. I was talking to Caitlin about it this morning. I was like, do global entry? Maybe. She says, Mom, no. Just stop. It's not going to happen. You're intentionally setting us up for failure.
And customs is short-handed, yeah.
Yes.
I waited
Customs
like
is
3
short-handed
hours
too.
in August.
Yes. And so even with global entry and pre-check and everything else, you have to pad in your time. When I was talking to the group woman, she was like, the group lady at Delta, she was like, there's a 7 a.m. flight. I said, well, maybe. She says, where y'all coming back from? I said, Israel. She said, no, ma'am. She says, no, ma'am. She said, they could fire me for booking you on that thing. She said, you're going to miss it. And all 30 of y'all are going to miss it. I said, okay, you're right. You're right. So you have to pad in enough time. So if you get your own flight, remember, land at 5:45, go through customs, pick up your bag, go through TSA, right? And then get back on your second plane. Right, thank you. Baggage check again. Skip the step, right? Go through customs, pick up your bag, drop off your bag, go through TSA, go to your plane, right? So you got to pad in that time. I can't tell you how much time to pad in. Minimum 2 hours. I would say, just to be on the safe side. You may not need it, and then don't be mad at me if you get through customs in 45 minutes. You're like, I could have made that flight. It's so highly unlikely that you'll get through customs in anything under an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I'm gonna be honest. It was fast in Atlanta. but it's not always fast. Atlanta usually is notoriously. One trip, I think I built in 3.5 hours. I pinched a nerve right now. I was still running to the airport. I made my flight coming back to Detroit. My cousin missed hers going to California. We built in 3.5 hours, and we were running through the airport. So you just don't know with customs, right? I'm not trying to say build in an inordinate amount of time, but just a reasonable amount of time, to just keep that in mind.
You should talk about the flight before like 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I wouldn't book a flight before 9 o'clock. I wouldn't. I would not book a flight before 9 o'clock.
I was gonna say the only other thing too is that like it may be a little different, like if we were flying back from like the islands or something, but because we're coming from the Middle East internationally, the customs may be a little bit longer. They may, be a little bit longer process.
A little more stringent in their questioning coming back. Talk to anybody.
Right.
So this question used to be, and I'm not trying to get political or anything, but it's a question that they often ask. Talk to anybody who wanted to overthrow the government, you would just laugh, right? But now not so much, right? So just think about that because we're coming back. It's a 10-hour flight, if I didn't say that before, about 10.5 hours. You'll need some compression socks. It's a long flight, but it's an overnight flight, so it goes relatively quickly because we sleep. You get dinner and breakfast on the flight, so they feed you twice because it's 10 hours. I have no control over your seat assignment. No control over where you will sit. What I can control, try to control, is who you sit next to. So I will put together a list, send it to Tony, and say this person wants to sit with this person in the general area of these other people. There may be an opportunity to upgrade. I upgraded on my way back from Israel. It's $500 each way, but it upgrades you to premium class, and it was a nice round. It was not going to underestimate it. It was worth it. I don't regret it. So you could, if you want to upgrade on the way there, you need to let me know. If you want to upgrade on the way there, you need to let me know. Or on the way back, I'm going to put together a list. I don't know what's going to be available, but it's just an option. And if they have availability and you want to do it, we have enough time. You can set aside the money if you want to do it. You just need to let me know so I can let Tony know. Okay? Anything else about that?
Don't forget, I think you skipped one of the pages. The flights to work, I think you.
Oh, you're right. So we talked about the flight to New York just a little bit, that you have to remain in the baggage claim area, or you can store your luggage if you choose and venture off to a local restaurant. Just make sure you're back by 1:50. So they have, and I've attached the sheet for the luggage storage is attached to the PowerPoint. Did I skip something else?
Oh.
Yes.
Am I getting ahead of you? Luggage, how much we can carry, how many bags we can carry?
You are, but that's okay. We can ask now, because if you're thinking about it now, other people are thinking about it now. So you get one bag. One bag. You can bring one bag. It can be a relatively large bag. So if you have a set of luggage with multiple pieces, you got the big piece, the medium piece, and the little carry-on. You can bring the big piece. But that's it. That's your luggage. Women, you get 2 bags. You can get your carry-on, your backpack, and you can get your purse. The guys, you just get one extra bag. But I encourage people to bring a backpack and your purse, or a backpack and your carry-on, right? You want your snacks, you want your gum, you want your headphones, your cell phone, whatever's important to you. Your medicine, please bring your medication, right?
The guy having a backpack.
No, bring your backpack. Bring your backpack, your water bottle, whatever you want to have, whatever's good for you, whatever makes you comfortable when you fly. You wanna bring your own blanket, you know, your headphones, whatever, what am I thinking of that I'm missing? Whatever you wanna bring. So, and you need to understand it's a 10-hour flight. So when we land, we are not going to the hotel. When we land, we're gonna go through customs and we're out for the day. You're gonna sleep on the flight. We're out for the day. We're gonna do lunch. We're gonna go to Jaffa. So I'm a fan of bringing a small toiletry kit. Put that in your bag. So you can brush your teeth, wipe your face. You wanna bring a change of underwear. I'm not trying to get personal with anybody, but we would have been sitting for, 10 and a half hours almost. So if you want to have those things in your carry-on, you can pop in the bathroom. There's plenty of time before we land. They actually give you a warm wipe. People wipe their face with it or whatever. But if you want to take an opportunity to freshen up just a little bit before we land, because we're not going straight to the hotel. Okay? So as I said, LL also, because we get 2 meals, lunch and dinner, you need to let me know if you have dietary restrictions. I know some people are lactose intolerant, some people are vegan, you know what I'm saying? So you have dietary restrictions, and I need to know about those, and I need to know about them by October 2nd, because that's information I need to get to Tony so he can get to LL.
Regina,
Yes.
on the airline, bottled water available.
On the plane?
On the plane.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so I touched on a toiletry kit. Real quick travel tips. So we jumped ahead to the bags, so you guys see the bags. Electricity. For those who've gone, you already know you need a converter. Their plugs don't work with our plugs. So if you stick your curling irons in, they're gonna blow up. They're not gonna work. They're not gonna work. They will not work. So, but if you bring a converter, you're fine. You stick your curling irons in the converter, you stick the converter in the wall, and it's fine. Pastor Warfield actually is the one who came up with the power strip. So he brings a power strip, so you can charge all of his devices how he normally would. So you plug all of them into the power strip, and then he plugs the power strip into the converter, stick that in the wall, and then you're just good to go. You can charge your AirPods and your iPad and your headphones. Well, that is your AirPods. Your cell phone, whatever else you need to charge. Compression socks, very important. It's a 10-hour flight. Yes, ma'am.
What's the dress attire kind of?
Casual. When I say casual, I mean super casual. Khakis, blue jeans, sneakers, sweatshirts. Very casual, the most comfortable clothing you would wear. Nothing fancy.
Regina, what kind of converter are you talking about here?
I meant to bring my copy of the converter. I'll bring it before we go out, just so you know. It's a big box. And you just plug it in the wall. You can get it from Meijer. You can get it from Walmart. It's just an international converter.
You say type A?
I gotta tell you, because there is more than one type. So I think the one for Israel works for in Europe too, or no?
I'm not sure. If you get a universal one, it'll have it on the side,
Yeah.
and you can toggle it. It'll have like the different countries listed.
Yeah.
But if it isn't a type, I'm just not sure.
Yeah, and that's what I have. I have a universal one. So you just click on wherever you are, and the right prongs will pop out. Okay? All right, what's the weather like that time of year? It's about 70 in Tel Aviv, 68 in Tiberias, 65 in Jerusalem. I would pack to be comfortable, but also to protect yourself. Bring an umbrella. Bring a light pair of gloves. Definitely bring a jacket. I would bring a hat. 2 types of hats, right? You want to bring a baseball cap to protect yourself from the sun, and you want to bring a knit hat in case it gets cool in the evening. Yes.
Are we gonna get jackets? Are we gonna get jackets?
I have to work, I'm working on that for the church as a whole. And so another ministry is working on the jackets for the church as a whole. So we get jackets for the church as a whole, we can wear those jackets. So, working on that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Regina also, a nice heavy scarf too.
Yes.
It's good.
Yep, I agree with that. Heavy scarf. Heavy scarf. Yeah, to cover your head. So when Judy went, she went in December. It was a little cooler when we went in December than it was when we went in February, March in 2020. So it's a little warmer, but I encourage you to bring a scarf. A scarf you can wrap around your head, scarf you can wrap around your chest.
So is it sand blowing around? Is that-
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It's just a little cool, and especially in the evening. It's a little cool. All right, this is our bus. We will be on a nice, modern, yes, Kate?
I was gonna highlight with clothing,
Oh.
make sure you have comfortable shoes.
Yes.
Like that was really important, so either gym shoes or like, I had, like Chaco sandals, but they were flexible with your feet so they can breathe, but like you will be on your feet a lot, so it's just making sure you have a pair of shoes that, you know, are worn in enough that they don't hurt where you're trying to break them in, but are sturdy.
Yep, I agree with that. Your footwear is the most important thing that you take to Israel. Thank you, Caitlin, for highlighting that. Your footwear is the most important thing you will bring. Do not buy shoes 2 days before and bring those shoes. Even if they're good, comfortable shoes, New Balance or whatever, you got them from the walk-in store, you have not broken those shoes in. So I would give those shoes a good 4 weeks to walk around in them and break them in. And walking. If you're not a walker, you should become one. Try to walk. Try to do the mall walking because the fall is going to be coming up. Now that it's warm, do some walking. We will be walking. It's a lot of walking.
Really? So let's just say, everybody leave at what, maybe 6 in the morning, and may not get back to the hotel until what, 7 at night?
That's a great question. So not quite 6.
Okay.
More like 8:30. An opportunity to get up and eat breakfast, and then we are on that bus and we are rolling until it's time for dinner, which is usually like 5 o'clock. We are gone all day. You are gone all day. In December, like here, the sun set early. So sometimes when we got back in December, it was dark. The time of year we're going to be a little better. It's springtime, so it won't be dark when we get back. But understand, when you get back, you're going to be going to the room, wiping your face, washing your hands, and heading down to dinner.
Yeah, that's just the main, excuse me, the main reason why my wife is not going, if anybody was wondering.
Oh,
Because she didn't get around
that well, yeah.
that well. I mean, she can with the walker, she thought
It would be more difficult. So we will have a scooter, more than one. If you want a scooter, you need to let me know in advance because we got to order these scooters. And you can get around on the scooter. It will help for those who have issues ambulating. Because we will be, some of the terrain can be rocky or uneven pavement. Some of it is completely fine, but it will be more walking. For those, anybody who tracks their steps, right? So my phone automatically tracks my steps. And the week after I come back from Israel, I get all these warnings. You are not walking as much as you did last week. It's like, no, I'm not. But when I say it will be like something, your steps are like 10, 12,000 steps a day. And you're just like, wow. But you don't feel it. I don't want to scare anybody. I'm just letting you know it will be a significant amount of walking, but not to the sense that you should be terrified of the walk. Okay? Just be prepared for it. As I said, the bus is great. Wi-Fi is on the bus. It works pretty well. So you will have access to your emails or anything that you would normally use on Wi-Fi. TikTok, but I don't know that anybody's going to be doing TikTok, but still, you have access to it. There's overhead storage. So if you want to bring a bag with you, right, while we're out and about, feel free to bring your bag because there's overhead storage for it. You know, they are 7 hours ahead, right? So we are 7 hours behind. So for those of you who have traditionally gone to California and Hawaii, they're behind us. This is ahead. I guess everybody is different. My body adjusts better going forward than it does going back. I really don't seem to have a problem. But no, when it is 7 o'clock in the morning here, is what, Kaylin? No, when it's 7 o'clock in the morning there, is nighttime here, right? So it's the day prior. So when you call your family at home, it's gonna be a little weird for everybody. Those first couple of phone calls are gonna be a little weird because the time is so off, okay? So you just need to prepare for that and know that there's water available on the bus as well for $1 purchase. And bring singles for that. Bring U.S. singles for that purchase of the water. Just bring dollars. The one thing I encourage people to do is set your time. When you get on the plane in LL, set your clock to Israel time. That way your brain will start switching over to Israel time. I'm going to get out of their way in a minute. Telephone service. So I use WhatsApp a lot while I'm in Israel. But if you want to have international service, that's completely up to you. But you need to check with your phone carrier. A lot of people, the second you land, if you take your phone out of airplane mode, your phone automatically goes into international mode. If you get a text message, if you get a phone call, your carrier will automatically charge you an international rate. You can leave your phone on airplane mode and use the Wi-Fi in the hotel and on the bus to communicate with people and never take your phone out of airplane mode. But it's whatever works for you. So these are going to be the hotels. The one thing I do want to say about the beds, most of you are staying in a double occupancy, so there should be 2 beds in the room. If there are not 2 beds in the room, call me. They might be mushed together because that's the Israel thing, but if there is not 2 beds and you've got a king and you're supposed to have 2 beds, call me. They put you in a wrong room. Unless y'all just comfortable sleeping in the king, that's fine too, but you should have double beds. This is just a picture of the hotel. I've attached a copy of the preliminary itinerary. You guys can look at it. If you have any questions about it, let me know. As I've already reiterated, when we arrive back in New York on the 9th, you need to make sure that you allow for adequate time to go through customs, get your bag, recheck your bag, and get on the plane. There's the option if you want to stay after, because we come back on a Thursday. So I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about doing the bookends, going down early and staying later too. Not something anybody has to do. I'm just thinking about it. Yes, Ms. Burke.
For eat pasta before you fly.
I'm sorry.
Eat pasta before you fly.
It just helps with carbs. Carbs help your body absorb going through the time zones. Any questions? Yes.
How safe is
Very safe. Did you say safe? Yes, that's a great question because a lot of people ask that question. How safe is it? It will be my 3rd trip. I never, ever felt unsafe there. To me, it was just like being in any other city. Yes, you're international, but to me, it was no different than being here, being in Chicago, being in New York. I felt very safe at all times. Actually took some taxis, felt safe, had no problem. So it's very safe. A lot of people, our last hotel in Jerusalem, were very close to the Wailing Wall. In the evening, people just walked on their own. I know Minister Jackson. They just got out and they walked on their own. It's very safe. It's very safe. You can just go walk the streets. It's very safe. Now, you still got to use your common sense, but it's safe. Judy? Yes, it's in the itinerary. Last day. You missed it. On the 8th. They are actual pictures of the hotel rooms. Any other questions? Any questions on that?